The average person forgets 80% of what they learn in 30 days. That basically means my whole entire channel was for nothing. Crazy, right? But what if I told you there was a way to never forget a tutorial ever again? Before this video ends, I guarantee that you will have a strategy for remembering things long term. I've helped plenty of people just like you to become a better version of themselves. And before this video was over, you will be saying the same thing. To keep it simple, there are 3 main types of players. And just so you know, I divided these playstyles up so you can identify yourself and act accordingly. And that way, no information will go to waste. And it's important that you learn these because it'll help you break that continuous loop of not improving. But for now, let's talk about player 1, the hard-headed one. If you remember what you did wrong only after you get sent back to the lobby after making a mistake, you're player 1. And this only happens because you aren't able to focus. And the hard truth is, focus isn't a permanent state of mind. It comes and goes like waves. And that's why sometimes when you try to lock in and do schoolwork, a couple of minutes later you'll find yourself scrolling on social media or watching YouTube, forgetting about everything that you need to do and only remembering after you get in trouble for not doing it. Why do you think it would be any different when you're playing a game? But the answer is very simple. You have a very brief memory, which means you need to study these things briefly in spaced out amounts of time. Have you ever tried to learn a song and then found yourself struggling, but then came back the next day and found yourself remembering more of the lyrics? It's just like that. You need to study and go over things in bursts, then take a break and allow those time gaps, around 10 to 15 minutes at a time. Your attention will slowly start to drop and your focus will go elsewhere. And when your 10 to 25 minute timer is up, you need to recite that same information. And the more you do this, the faster that information will come back to you. Remember it, go over it, and recite it. Set a timer, take a break, occupy your mind, and forget. Then when the timer is up, you need to try your hardest to remember it. When you study in sessions like this, you're training yourself to match up with your natural focus peaks. And what I mean by that is the random times where your brain focuses the most. Because I'm pretty sure when we all try to focus, we don't even know where we're trying to focus on. Half of the time we forget what we even need to be doing. But imagine you trained yourself to focus at a specific time and that only. In case you didn't know, you do the exact same thing when you're playing the game. You lose focus and occupy your mind, which is rotating, looting, farming, taking out the NPCs. But when you get in a serious fight and it's time for you to focus, sometimes you won't be able to recall what you just learned. And that's only because you lost focus. The thing about Fortnite is you can't focus on what you need to be doing when you're not in that situation. If I'm trying to focus on using this one technique that I got from a tutorial, but nobody's building for me to use it, then I won't be able to focus on doing it. And this happens all the time. But let's say that we use the spaced out time method. Now our brain is more used to jumping between being occupied and focused. You'll notice that it's way easier to recite that same information that you've been holding on to. And that way you can turn that specific focus on and off. But that leaves room for another weakness. Over-consuming. Let's say that you successfully learned something recently, and now you feel as though you can learn something new. But after you do, you'll slowly find yourself forgetting what you previously just learned. And the result of that is losing progress. This is the main issue. You watch a tutorial, get on the game, try to do it, get it down, but now that's the only thing on your mind. It's gotten so bad that you can barely recite what you learned beforehand. Well, to keep it simple, it's memory clutter. Your brain can only process so much information at once. But of course, we all want to be the best we can be as fast as possible. So we need a solution. And it's simple. Plan and write down what you practice out in order. Now, I want you to think about how a tree grows, from the roots all the way up to the leaves. When you imagine how the tree looks, you imagine it as a whole. You think about the whole entire tree. And that's how you should think about things that you learned in Fortnite. Find a way to group what you previously learned with what you're currently learning. Let's say I just learned how to piece control. The next thing in line for me to learn is exit piece. So I'm going to write them both down in the order that I just learned them in. And it's easy to group these two because they're both basically the same thing. And sometimes in some situations, I can't use one without the other. So when it comes down to me using the current thing that I've learned, I can't manually do it without using the first skill that I've learned. And the best way to do this is to list every single thing that you want to learn, group the similar ones together, and then put them in order. Something similar to this that I used to follow was exit piece, phase builds if possible, then use piece control. And the only reason it's in this order is because I can't do one step without the other. And it would be really hard to track where somebody's going if I didn't use exit piece before I phase those builds in. So basically when I'm practicing in creative, I'm going to follow the same sequence and I won't change it. And that way I won't be randomly using the things that I've learned in a tutorial, because if you do it randomly without purpose, it won't work. Also, if you focus on one specific move and that move only, you won't really have a backup plan. You would just be throwing moves out there hoping that something will work. But if you follow this method, you'll be able to prioritize, filter, and give your mind clarity when it's needed. This should be all you need to know to never forget a tutorial, but not when you factor in the impatient player. They tend to ignore the basics of the game to use the moves that they just learned. But there's a huge problem with thinking like this. Most of the time, you're not in the right situation to use it. And when you're playing the game, I'm pretty sure you noticed this. And this may make you feel a little discouraged. First, let me explain how this works. Once you filter out all the irrelevant details from your environment, this declutters your memory and helps you decide what's irrelevant in a fight and what's not. And that way, the information that you digested doesn't overlap or compete with the important information that you know. But how do you apply this to your playstyle? All you have to do is make a list of cues for every group of things that you learned. Not only do you need to remember the moves, you need to remember when to use them. And this does seem like a lot, huh? But wait until I explain the situation. Let's say that you're boxed up, right? And there's someone rushing you. But you're both in storm and you have no white heals. What should you do? Rotate or fight? These are things that you need to pay attention to. Is circle far? Do you have extra heals just in case you take damage? Are you getting third party? Are you in a 1v1 or 1v2 situation? Are there a bunch of people around you waiting to jump into the fight? Just because you know how to do a move doesn't mean you should do it. And this right here separates you from the average player and the good player. And the simple way to remember these things is just to go back to player 1, the hard-headed one. Add the cues and the group moves. So when you have to recite those things every 10 minutes or so, it'll be easier to recite those, but with those group moves and those cues. But at the end of the day, none of this matters if you don't know the last step. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'll be telling you how to remember things long term. And this is very important because if you don't do this, you'll find yourself in the same situation that you learned all over again, which means all you did was just waste your time. And that's what we don't want to do. We want to learn effectively and permanently. The answer is to simply play the game regularly. But with these things in mind, if you don't use these skills on a regular basis, then you'll start to lose your muscle memory and your confidence. And I promise you, this is a real thing. Let me use an example. Let's think about bodybuilders. They hit the gym and they have a good routine and a good flow. They work out like 4 times a week. But let's say for like 2 weeks or so, they got real lazy and they only went to the gym about 4 times throughout those 2 weeks. Not only will they lose momentum, they'll also start to lose their gains. And this is the effect of not regularly applying yourself. They have to manage their gains once they earn them. And that's why you see extremely fit people still going to the gym, because once they get comfortable or stop, it's over. Same thing with Fortnite. Continuously work on yourself and what you've learned, because once you stop applying yourself regularly, you will slowly start to lose your progress. Also, make sure you get some quality sleep. That's how you keep a healthy mind capable of storing whatever you want. And you could use flashcards as well. That's what I did. On one side, write down a thing that you want to remember, and on the other side, write a question for it. But if you already learned something and you want to learn something else, group it into a pattern and write the cue somewhere, and go over these things every 10 to 15 minutes. But make sure you ask yourself that question first and then recite it. Try to remember it on your own. Don't give yourself the answer at all. You should always try your hardest to recite it yourself. If you can recite it without looking at the answer at all, then remembering this stuff out of nowhere when you're playing the game should be way easier. So do yourself a favor and ignore the answer on the back altogether. Just so you won't forget this video, make sure you like this video and subscribe. And if you're on your phone right now, use your hype points. You can also join my Discord server, and there's a bunch of helpful things you can learn as well. And on that note, I'll see you in the next one.
It is Stitch and I said bye.